Welcome to Between the Lines. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
This is a salon series I started in New York, and we are so delighted to have Loretta, and we'll be discussing her novel today, Finding Grace. Okay, so we like to kick things off here with a quote. And so I've always loved this quote. It's called, "A room without books is like a body without a soul." I think people quietly build their self-portraits through books that they have around them. So Loretta, if someone walked into your library, what would they understand about you?
I think a library or wherever you write, wherever you sit, wherever you're around books, I think it's probably going to tell you a lot more about me than if you were, looking at my bedside table. I don't think that's really going to tell you a lot, whereas it seems like a really intimate place, but actually I'm most nervous around people being around my desk because sometimes I've got things written down that sound, I don't know, a bit out there, but yeah, you would definitely realize that I'm organized, but I'm quite chaotic there's a lot of books, there's a lot of strange books, but yeah, you would see that I'm not like a pretty writer, I don't think.
Okay, you're a little messy.
I think it's all messy, but if a book has moved or a page isn't there, I would know about it.
Okay. And are there any books at different stages in life that you return to and you find they have like a completely different meaning?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of things that I've returned to and thought, oh, I didn't really get that. But obviously it was about you need a book at a certain time. And there's things I've returned to that I think, oh gosh, I really missed that. But I just wasn't looking at it with the same set of eyes. You evolve, you get older, and you start to appreciate things in a different way. And I also, I was speaking to a friend earlier, and I tried to sort of say like, you have to be in a partnership with a book. It's not just about you. You have to be, you want to read it, but you also have to kind of want each other. And I don't think it's just, I don't like reading things that everyone's reading because I'm very worried that I'm sort of not reading for the right reasons. Like I want to read because I want questions to be posed to me, as opposed to like, this is trendy, I'm going to read this and write about it and talk about it. I can't read like that. I become very, I can't absorb things like that.
Who are your favorite writers?
I mean, I'm a very sort of quirky reader. So I read a lot of like 20th century writers. I'm a huge Noel Coward fan. I read a lot of more recent like Alan Hollinghurst, and I am drawn to sort of witty Oscar Wilde. Like those are the people that, because I don't think you can't perform wit. You either are witty or you're not. And I think if you're reading a book and you're giving, it's quite a sort of revealing thing to do. And so I like the idea that someone who lived, many, many years ago can still sit with me and make me laugh. Like it's quite a difficult thing to do with absolutely nothing but your interpretation of it. So I like witty writers. I find that very, it's extremely impressive to me.
That's how I feel about Charles Bukowski.
Yeah, it's very.
He's fantastic. His work speaks to me.
Yeah,
he's a total derelict.
Yes.
His work is crazy. I mean, he has a quote that says, "Some people never go crazy. What terrible lives they must live."
Yeah, he's a perfect example of that, for sure.
Were there particular writers or books that shaped the emotional atmosphere you wanted to create in Finding Grace?
I don't really feel like I have much of a say in what I write. I just have these voices in my head, and specific, like the protagonist of my book. She was very, very opinionated. She was very insistent on being in the book. She was. I never was without her. So I feel like voices drive me. Like that's how I live day in, day out, is I'm being told what to do by a voice in my head in a sort of in a very sort of I can live way. But it's Honor, who is the protagonist of this book, was so opinionated at times that I couldn't even sort of go out around Waitrose without her giving me opinions about the crackers I was choosing and that was great because it gave me a lot of words I could write very easily, but at the same time, you are not living your life. You are sort of living another person's life, and I think that's sometimes misunderstood. Like, oh, writers are sort of walking around doing these. It's like
Lost in thought.
I'm I'm sort of I've been overtaken by this other being, and I have to then make that being real to somebody else. So yeah, it's good when they're voicey, but it's also quite loud.
That's so cool. It reminds me of method acting when you have to like embody a character, and sometimes these actors get lost and they say they go crazy because they take on this character and then they say they become the character.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like. Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah, I mean, it is, and then you have to write another one, and then they're still there.
And do they go away or do they
No.
stay? Are they
No.
always in the background?
She sometimes pops in when I really don't need her opinion about something I'm writing in the real world. And she'll just come in and sort of start commenting on how no one would ever say that, and I just think, oh God, why did I get you? But now I realize how lucky I was, because I was never short of material. I was never without anything. It was honestly like, I don't know, there's a play called Blithe Spirit. I don't know if you've read it, an old Cower play where there's two wives in the room. It's a really, really wonderful play, but it was like, it was just nonstop. So now it's different. I'm writing a second book, I'm doing all these other things, but there is still, I don't think anyone escapes from a book they've ever written. Either people will mention it to you, or you will think about it and it will pop up in other writing. I mean, it's not something you can escape, for sure. I don't think.
So Honor's like your ghostwriter for the second book,
Oh,
in a way?
I wish. That would be great, because it's not easy, but she's a writer, so I think that it's nice to have a sparring partner mentally sometimes, but not all the time. But she is, yeah, she's a bit quieter now. She's obviously gone somewhere for a bit, but
She'll be back.
Well, hopefully not. We'll see.
Was there a question about human behavior you found yourself trying to answer through the novel?
I don't think I intentionally wanted to answer, I don't think I intentionally set out to do that, but I do think that I become very disinterested in something if I'm not answering a question for myself. I recently, about 18 months ago, I started writing my second book, and it was so difficult and I couldn't work out why. It was so hard. It was the hardest thing I'd ever done intellectually. I couldn't understand why. I didn't know what these characters were doing. It was very, very new to me not to know. And about a year and a half in, I had to just pull the plug and say, do you know what, that doesn't work for the writer that I am. Like, it's a great idea. Maybe it's for somebody else, but I can't execute that in the way that I like to write. And I look back on it now and I realize that I had nothing I wanted answered for myself personally in my life. I had no question I was chasing. I was writing a plot. I wasn't writing a story. I wasn't writing I want to ask questions to myself. Otherwise, what am I writing for? I became very disinterested in it. So I now know the importance of my interest to understand something that I may not fully believe yet or fully buy about the world or people or myself. So yeah, I do think that there are, for me as a writer, it's not for everyone, but I need to be, I'm very curious. So if I'm not curious, I'm not going to write. I can give you the words, I can give you the dialogue, it's fine, but it's not going to be the same as a book like what I did with Finding Grace, because I wasn't searching for anything in that other draft. May it rest in peace, but that's over. So
there's so much emotional honesty. That's what I think you're best. Like when I read this, I was just, how you capture small performances and omissions that live in relationships. I mean, it's so well written. It's so beautiful. It touched me deeply.
I think that's definitely like what I like is when I look at the big topics like in this book that are all the ones that are constantly put out there, the love, the grief. You know, how do you say something that no one else has said before? You know, that is very difficult. And I didn't set out to do that. I set out to just look at all of those topics in the sort of smallest possible way and think, how is that different to something else? And the truth is it's not, but how can I say it in a way that there might be one person that might relate to it? And I was speaking actually on the way over here, and it's as simple as something like, my job as a writer is not to tell you to feel pain or to feel loss or to feel grief. It's to show you something and hopefully give you an opportunity to react in your own way. And that's what I like searching for. I like looking for the tiniest, most insignificant things, but the most significant things. Like, once I said to someone, she was talking about her parents and how much they loved each other. And I was like, but how do you know? Like, how do you know they love each other so much? And she said, because in the morning, my dad wakes up and he gets my mum's socks and he puts them on the radiator.
So
And I thought, oh, yeah, okay. Like, there is a moment in life where you stop trying to tell someone something. And, you know, I hate that sort of repetitive show, don't tell, but that is my sole job every day, is to just show someone something and hope they react in the way you intended, or hope they have a reaction, not to tell them. I hate when I dislike when someone is telling me what to feel about something, because I'm very protective of that. You know, like, to react to something is giving it something. So I don't like to be spoon-fed a novel. I like the sort of effort one puts in, because it's important to react authentically. Otherwise, you know, it's just, I don't want to be told what to do, especially emotionally, because that's just doesn't feel right to me.
I understand. There was this part in chapter 6 on page 77 where Honor and Tom bond over reading The Second Sext. Honor presents herself as someone who's read it, and Tom, wanting to connect with her, claims he's read it too. And then later in bed, they find out that neither of them have read it. So you talk about a little omission, and it's like this very funny moment because it's so relatable. Like in life, when you really like someone and you just really want to connect, and you kind of just tell a little white lie, or you pretend, you know? So the novel deeply feels interested in the way that people present themselves, edit themselves, and sometimes protect themselves. Do you think in modern life, particularly social media, has it blurred the line between authentic intimacy and curated identity?
I wrote that book during a time when we had social media, but I intentionally set it pre-social media, because, as in, it starts pre-social media, because I do think we've always edited ourselves. I just think we have different tools now. We have all these different ways we edit ourselves. But in reality, I think, you know, I'm sitting here now editing what I say to you, because that's what we do. And when someone isn't that way, we go, God, they're so unfiltered, you know, this, and it's totally true. But I think that we're always editing ourselves until, you know, we just press play and we just hope for the best, you know, because it's not possible. You know, I remember telling my husband I could ski. I can't ski. And, he found out, guess what? That was an awful day. But that was like, he knew I couldn't ski in reality, but, you can just tell. I was like, yeah, of course, love the Alps. But it was my version. Like, my version of the Alps is him leaving me reading all day alone and then picking him up at the bottom. Like, you're not so much, it's just like how one presents himself. Like, I'm willing to try stuff for you, but if I don't like it, I'm not going to go up there. And I didn't go back. So it's just that sort of, I don't feel like we've done anything different. I just feel like we're seeing it more. But, I've seen my friends on first dates and I'm like, I mean, not literally, but she's like told me where they're going. I'm like, what? You hate walking? Why are you going up that mountain? So no, I'm fine. I really like it. I'm like, what? Like that's going to last an hour, and it lasts an hour. So it's just sort of good manners. I think in a way, it's like, oh, I really want to just meet this person in the middle, but it's not sustainable, and it's quite charming in a way. And I think that's with that scene, I wrote it intentionally because, I've never met someone like, especially my girlfriend, who was sort of saying the brutal truth on the first date. I mean, the world apart. But if you took away what they were saying and you just looked at how they were acting or how they moved their body or how they dressed or what time they arrived, were they early, were they late, were they looking you in the eye, were they hungry, were they not? You're going to see a person unedited unless they've got some incredible skill but you really can't hide who you are. I mean, not to a writer. You might be able to some people, but you can't, because we have this unconscious, innate need to find what you're hiding. That's the whole point of a book, is like, what's the secret? What are they truly saying and what are they hiding? I'm not interested in what someone says to me. They present themselves, I do this, I do that. And I think, okay, but I'm looking at everything else. I'm looking at the body language. I'm looking at how they hold their bag. Are they holding their drink in a way that do they drink? Do they not drink? Do they hold the drink? Are they thirsty? Are they hungry? Like, what sort of character is this? Are they looking at their watch? And things that you really don't know you're doing, to me, are the most interesting and the most reliable way to show who a person really is. Like, really, very rarely in good books does anyone say anything explicit to the reader.
You dive into relationships so well. And what I really touched me was the mother-daughter relationship between Honor and her mom. What made you want to dive into that? Those are dynamics.
I think I liked I don't ever feel this like burning need to do something set in space. I like to set things in a space where everyone can feel some moment of, whether it's making a cup of tea or an argument with their mum. That's what interests me, is those sort of domestic settings. And Honor had some edgy moments with her mother, and I think the book is really about what makes a mother and what that means, and what is the meaning of family. So that relationship was very important, and I do think that it's probably been the most talked about relationship that people have talked to me about in the book, is that relationship. And naturally, I never really thought about it much, which is interesting, because I was like, oh, I mean, I have an amazing relationship with my mom. So it was really, it was totally made up. So I don't know why it worked, but maybe because I just knew who those two characters were, but it wasn't something I thought, oh, I can really, fall into this because I have experience of that. I think I just have experience of people that misunderstand each other, and they did misunderstand each other a little bit.
Greatly.
But they figured it out in the end, in their way.
I feel like your mom can always be your biggest supporter and your greatest critic. So becoming a mother yourself, do you think it's changed how you've written emotional relationships?
I think that everything one does, especially as, I started writing this book when I was in my late 20s. So now I'm in my mid 30s. And that's a time when you really, I think for me anyway, I've like really changed in that time.
The big questions come in the
Yeah.
30s.
I think you just,
Get ready, Sophie.
Yeah. You're just different. And I think, yes, I've definitely changed, but I just want to explore more. That's what I always think, is like, what more is here? What more can I figure out? What more can I find? But yeah, I don't, I can't remember what the question was.
Uh, well, let's go to the next. Let's talk about Jeff Buckley. So last night I was watching Jeff Buckley's one of his last interviews, and he says, "Grace is what matters in everything, especially in life, growth, tragedy, love, and death." And it reminds me of how you explored that through the novel with your characters. So how do you come up with these characters? Do they present themselves in the beginning, or is that as it goes?
Yeah, I mean, I have no experience of searching for a story. I've never ever thought, right, today I need to think of a character. I just sit down, you know, they just happen to me. I don't know how else to explain it, and it's such an annoying thing to not understand, to sort of not be able to articulate it. But the way they speak, I do a lot of dialogue before I start writing the book in the way that I write it, because the conversation is by far the most telling thing that I can get down on paper for me, to make sure that I know what the character's like. I know them so intimately that it's almost irritating, like I know them better than I know myself. But I don't know how much of that is me and how much of that is just them. So I have to make sure that when I'm writing that character for my reader, that it's consistent. Like, that's the thing, is that I might know what they mean, but am I able to take away the person saying it and I can tell who's speaking? You know, that's very telling in a book, is if you need to really keep telling a reader who's, I do it because I'm always worried that someone isn't able to sort of, I don't ever want to make it overly complicated, because the assumption that it's so clear is not always so clear. You know, you can hope it is, but you should always, like he said, she said, is not ever really annoying to a reader. What's annoying is when you don't know who's speaking. So hopefully you know. But I was reading a book recently that's really, really good. But at times I was thinking, who is speaking? Because they were quite similar characters. So the conversation was not that like the dialogue was not that different. So I think, even though you might know, it might not be as clear as you think. But they're very clear to me. I mean, I can, down to the smallest detail, like even when I'm writing a scene, no matter how simple it is, I will know if they've got chip nail varnish, if they've had a pedicure, I'll know when it's been. I will know I will know exactly what they've done 5 minutes before, and I will know what they're doing after. And if you don't, that period in between of writing is going to be so much harder, because you don't know where you're going. So it's like, if I know that person needs to get somewhere, which you always want your character to go somewhere, otherwise if they're not going anywhere, it's a disaster. So, are their nails chipped? Have they had a shower? If they had a shower, do they have a bra on? Like, where are they sitting? Is it light? Is it dark? Who's turned the lights on? Like, and then suddenly it's just ask the questions that you've done 5 things before. You can just make it up. Or she just had a cup of tea. Okay, well, so she doesn't need to get up and have a cup of tea. But always make sure they haven't had a cup of tea, because you always want your character to want something. Like, I can't remember who it was that said, have your character want something, even if it's a glass of water. Because otherwise they're just sitting there. And you don't want a character to just
Stay idle.
Yeah, you've got to want something. Otherwise they won't, they just won't be. They need to want something. Everyone wants something.
That's true. Is there any character that surprised you as you were writing?
I think every character surprised me in the sense of like what they could do, and what they were capable of. But I was quite surprised by the Honor, the protagonist's kind of ability to. It's quite hard to talk about without sort of giving parts of the book away, but she has something happen to her, and at the beginning of the book, she's a very particular type of person, and she has this dramatic change, and that dramatic change, she could have gone one of 2 ways, and she became a kind of, she was wonderful to me. And it really, like, this book is a love story at its heart, but it's actually sort of two love stories. It's the love story between Tom and Honor, and also the love story between Tom and somebody else, but also between these two women who need each other. They really need each other, and yet they never meet each other. But they are in total alliance. And, that's my experience of female relationship, is this kind of, Thelma and Louise. Like, that's my version of friendship. Like, we're going over this cliff together. I don't know any other way to do this. So, and I often sort of read books where these women are fighting, and I think, well, I don't have any relationships that are like this. Why is this so dramatic? And I feel very protective of the way women's roles are sort of presented. And this was such a sort of fun book to write because of their relationship and their power over their relationship that no one else could really get close to. So yeah, I loved their relationship. So she was always impressive to me.
That really came through in your writing. And most of my relationships are like that. We call it a ride or die in the US.
Exactly.
But you touch on grief a lot throughout the book without giving too much away. And there's this quote that you wrote that, it just took me. It goes, "Grief's iron grip never weakens. You just become accustomed to its hand around your throat." Whoa. You write grief with such precision. How did you tap into that?
I think it comes back to sort of not wanting to say something new, just really looking at it actually in a much smaller way. How might it feel to sit in that level of grief? And I never want to try and be, I think if ever one tries to be impressive, it becomes really clear. And I think sometimes just saying something very simple, like, what does it feel like? What must it feel like? And it goes back to, I've watched people tell me things and they hold I can see the pain. Like, that came from someone showing me. I didn't make it up. Someone was talking and they didn't say a lot, but they went to their throat. And I just thought, say no more. This person is really telling me everything. And I think it's, again, not about how am I going to write this differently? Like, I'm not going to write about love better than anyone. So I'm not going to try. I just want to say what I saw. And I think once you start to not think, like, don't read Wendy Cope and think, oh, I want to write about a first date like that. Like, that's never going to work. Just write about what you saw. It's not about what you know, because you have to not know things. I write about what I see. I write about what attracts me and what makes me curious. I don't write about anything other than, if I see you, I've seen you, you're on the hard drive, so good luck to you. So don't be mean, because I will find a character for you in my sort of way, like it's how I justify certain behaviors, good and bad, and I never want to judge my characters. Like, if someone's mean or someone's overly nice, I always wonder, like, why? Like, I wonder why that's how they present themselves. Like, if someone is having a bad day, I want to know what happened. I don't think, oh, this is, no one's ever really, it's never really about you. It's about what you can hear and what you can.
What you've been through,
yeah,
or the trauma you may have had.
It's not straightforward, and I don't want to look at things in like a one-dimensional way. Ever. That's I couldn't really exist like that.
I couldn't. At the core of the novel, that seems to ask whether intimacy can survive on partial truth. What interested you about the tension between love and withholding?
I always think of whenever I'm writing, I always think, like, what's the said, what's the unsaid, and what's the unsayable. And I think you want to be sort of in the middle. So you can't say the unsayable, but you can sort of execute it in a way, if that makes sense, and I like kind of oscillating between those the unsayable unsaid. So you get to the unsaid is how I present myself. And the thing you actually say is, again, how we edit ourselves. Your intention may not be to hurt the person, but you don't get to decide. And you have to say, okay, I don't want to be with you, to someone. It's very
not
hard
easy.
to say that. It's very hard, but they know what you're saying. So how do I say that in an original way between characters where you literally get to see on a page exactly what they're going to say? That's for me where the excitement comes, is how am I going to make this scene feel tense and build the tension and show the grit and the emotional pain when I just have words and a piece of paper and I have to make you believe me, you know? So I think that's definitely where the excitement for me as a writer is how can I have you feel what I feel for these characters, which is good and bad, you know. It's not always
There's not always a happy ending.
no, there's
And
not.
that's okay.
No. But I think if you start happy, you can't end happy. Like, in a way, I think that you've got to be a little bit, well, this is just my view is just, I would never want to start a book tragically and end tragically. Personally, that's not the kind of book I want to write. But yeah, I think the happy ending hasn't have to be on the nose, you know, I think, but.
I noticed Baudelaire's Hymn to Beauty quietly weaving through the novel, almost connecting the worlds of Tom, Honor, and Grace. What was about the poem that felt so aligned with the story you were telling?
Yeah, there's a poem in the book that plays a very, very big part in revealing something about the secret that's kept. And I wish I had a great answer, but truly I had a copy of Baudelaire on my, going back to the desk. And I was really stuck and I didn't know how to get unstuck. And this is, again, why you should have loads of stuff on your desk, because you might find the answer. But yeah, I picked up this collection of poems that a friend had given me, and it was that poem. And again, going back, voice in my head, Honor read it to me. It wasn't me reading it in my voice. She started reading it. And that's how I got the idea for the poem, was that she would read it to me. It's so hard to talk about this book without giving something away, but there's a poem in the book that like plays a very, very big part in the book. And it wasn't that I went after that poem like in a creative way of, I want to put this poem in. It was full circle. I opened that book, Honor was in my head, I read it, and I thought, this is the poem, and it will be the poem, because really you can bring anything back to your interpretation if you're willing to try. So that's why that was that poem. But if I'd gone one page further, it would have been a different poem. I wish I had some really intellectual reason. It was just where the pages unfolded.
No, it's okay. Thank you for introducing me to Charles Baudelaire, because I was reading your book and then I was like, what is this poem? And so I picked it up. Flowers of Evil, it's called?
Well,
the Flowers of Evil?
The collection of them.
Yes, I think that's
the Fleur de Mal. Yeah, no, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, and he's an incredible, I mean, now I sort of read him and I think, Jesus, this is so highbrow. And I love him, but
it's for the lit majors.
It was just so overwhelming. And I was reading these translations thinking, God, this is like, it's so beautiful that I almost have to close it, because I think I'm not ready yet.
It's overwhelming.
Yeah. And then the translations on one side, and then he looks so serious, and I think, oh no, I'm not serious enough.
What emotional residue do you hope that Finding Grace would leave behind?
I think it's always nice to leave a book thinking about it and thinking the questions, you know, would I have done that? Can I really think badly of this person for making those choices? I think there's always a reason. And I think if this book does anything, it's like, okay, that was, you know, I think there's, to me, the thing I love most about the book is the questions it left me with. And I still don't know the answers. Like, do I think that it's good to keep a secret because you don't want to hurt someone? I can't say that I've ever not answered something where someone said, you know, do you think I should marry this person? And I know they're going to marry them. Am I going to say, yeah, you shouldn't marry them? And then they marry them and I'm sitting there giving it one of these, like, what?
You're blacklisted
yeah,
from the
and
wedding.
like, this is so, you know, I don't want to sit and judge someone for making a decision that really I've made for myself, which is I just don't want things to be different today. I want things to be the same as they were yesterday. And I want to give my characters like a lot of, you know, a lot of space to be human. I don't think any human is perfect. I don't think any human has ever not done something unkind to someone. Truly, if they ask themselves, like, could I have done that a bit nicer? Could I have said that in a different way? And if I treated my characters like they should be this perfect thing, no one would want to read it. No one wants to read about perfect people.
No, not at all. I don't. I want the unhinged characters.
Yes. And I don't know any perfect people. So
Neither
that
do
would
I.
just be like sort of watching, I don't know, I'd never seen anything where people aren't edgy and a bit spiky at times in their way. But with a book, you get to find out why. Whereas like if someone barges into you on the street and is a bit rude to you, you never know why. Whereas in a book, you get to know. And that's the job, is make sure that, you know, people do things that are sometimes a bit outrageous, but you understand why in the end. I mean, it's like marriage.
Okay, so one final question. You have to tell us, because everyone has socks here on their seats. What is the origin
yes,
of the
the
red
socks.
socks?
The
I'm dying
socks.
to know. You have them all over social media.
I know. I know.
us.
I must make up an amazing story about this, but truly, I am the coldest person on earth. So right now, I am freezing. Like my toes are numb, and my husband will tell you this because he's here. I'm not making like
He was cold too earlier.
He's, oh yeah, we're always cold.
You're both
Well,
reptiles.
yeah, I know it's something wrong, but I wear socks. I don't wear any socks. These are the only socks I wear in the entire world, and I found them about 10 years ago. And I didn't like the feeling when they weren't red, so I now only wear red socks. I've never worn another pair of socks in a decade. And those socks are the best socks. And my husband will tell you because he's forced into it too. And they are so comfortable, but also I feel very strange if I don't have a red sock. I just, it's not an option for me. Like I'll be on holiday and I will have my red socks on. Because it's
in Central Pay or something.
And air conditioning is kind of intense sometimes.
It feels cozy though in socks. Like sometimes I sleep in socks.
Oh yeah, every night.
You
I've
feel a
never
little
ever not
nurtured,
worn socks in bed. That would never occur to me ever, to not be in socks and a full set of pajamas. So, by the way, because also if the alarm goes up, I'm so ready. I am the first person at the door, fully dressed. I'm ready to go. I don't do any of that. Like, and if I don't know, like if it's a particularly hot evening for some strange reason, I will have them on the floor like flippers in case something were to happen. I don't want to be in a scenario. And also, I don't know how people, if I literally from the bath, like the shower to the bath mat, I can't even touch the cold floor because I'll feel that cold for days.
Wow.
Yeah, no, I should look into it. But I don't need to because, and sometimes I wear two pairs of
you
those.
have all the socks.
I wear them on the plane. I wear two pairs. Everywhere. No, I really, and once you wear them, you will understand.
We're going to have to get some reviews.
Yeah, you should, everyone email me about the socks because they are, I truly have people, I buy them people and then they say, okay, where's the person? How do I get these socks? But I just never do anything but red. Red is the best color. It makes you so happy.
It does, yeah.
It's an outfit.
We're in the red room, yeah.
Exactly.
I think it's a sign of like strength too.
Yeah.
Endurance.
We like it. We love the red. So I hope you like that. I know it's not the right season, but for me, it's every day.
I think it's so cute. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming today.
Thank
you were
you.
such a delight to be
so
around.
Are you. Thank
it's nice
you.
to get inside of your head.
I don't know if
a little bit, a little sneak peek. Okay, so you have your paperback coming out in July?
Yes,
So
July
everyone,
16th. 16th?
If you have a friend, please buy a book for them.
Or tell them to just read the first chapter because you can read it without having to buy it if you
perfect.
like it.
A little preview.
Yeah, the first chapter's to give you a taste.
And thank you to the 22 and Sophie for having us.
Thank you.